I use Tinder pretty frequently, and it's usually cool. Just meeting people, chilling, smoking with most of them. So I matched with a dude named Charlie, and he seems cool. He's really cute, and he plays music, which is really appealing to me, as I also sing and play piano. We talked for a little while, and I agreed to meet him at his house. Mistake number 1. Why did I think it was a good idea to meet a stranger in their home? I don't drive, so I take an Uber over, and it's a decent ways away, so it's kind of pricey. When he buzzes me into the apartment complex, I got this really creepy vibe. I shook it off as nerves. I go up to the 3rd floor, and he's standing at the door. Things are cool. We're just chilling. We smoked a couple of bowls, and we're watching a movie. So he makes a move on me, and I go with it. We end up on the bed, and we're obviously engaging in adult activities. But out of nowhere, he wraps his hands around my neck. Hard. Now that's all fine and good with me. I mean, I can dig that in the right setting. But alone, in a stranger's house, when he didn't even check to see if it was cool, is not one of those settings. So I literally can't breathe, and I'm fairly certain I'm turning blue at this point, and he is just relentless. Not only is he asphyxiating me, he is now yelling in my face, "Are you scared?" with this wild look in his eyes. And I'm like, fuck yes, I am scared. You are trying to kill me right now. I start to struggle, and he is gripping me even harder. I'm not even kidding you guys. I seriously thought I was going to die. By some miracle, I wriggle out of his grasp and start screaming. He's yelling at me to calm down, and I'm frantically trying to put on all my clothes. He grabs my wrist as I'm trying to leave, and I use all my strength to pull away and slam the door. As it was closing, the charming fella bid me adieu with the words, "Fucking cunt." I get home, and I look in the mirror, and I have hella bruises on my neck. I try to cover it up with makeup, but to no avail. I straight up look like I was almost strangled to death. Then he texts me, saying, "I think you need more than just one dick." And I'm like, oh really? You want to bring a friend and kill me together? How lovely. Anyway, I blocked him and reported him on Tinder. I wish I could have done more, because I seriously think he would have killed me. I've been debating going to the police, but the bruises are gone and it's a he said, she said thing. But I'm really starting to wonder if I should, because the next girl might not be so lucky. 0 out of 10 would not attempt at murder again. Crazy strangler Tinder dude? Let's not meet. Around March of 2014, I started talking to this girl on Tinder. She seemed cool and fun, and after a week of talking, we suggested that we meet up in person. She invited me to this coffee shop, and I accepted. However, on the day of, she started messaging me saying that she had to tell me something. Her pictures on Tinder weren't actually of her, and yes, she was a guy. He claimed he really liked talking to me though, and begged me to still meet up with him. Naturally, I declined. I blocked his profile and continued on with my life. About a week later, I started talking to another girl. Once again, she seemed cool and fun, and we hit it off. She asked me if I spoke to people on Tinder frequently, and rather stupidly, I told her about my previous encounter with the man lady. Weeks later, I would realize that this new girl was the same girl as the week before. She asked me if I wanted to meet up, and I said sure, as long as it was in a public place. We decided on a cafe, and the next day I sat at the table waiting. 5, 10, 15 minutes had passed, and she was nowhere to be found. I then peered out the window and saw, from across the street, a man staring at me intently. I looked away, waited a few seconds, and looked back. He was still there, staring. At that point, I left the cafe, got on my bike, and booked it home. I was definitely a little freaked out, but tried to pull myself together, and reasoned that no one could have followed me. I then deleted my Tinder profile, and things were normal for a few weeks. About 3 weeks later, I started getting phone calls. The numbers all showed up as unknown. I picked up the first few times to some guy breathing heavily into the phone. I was already a little freaked out. After about a day, I stopped picking up any call unless it displayed the caller's name. I then started receiving texts. At first, they were pretty harmless. Calls for attention and begging me to meet in person. It didn't change to very sexual texts, until eventually the messages became threatening, and whoever was messaging me started throwing out my family and friends' names and whereabouts, saying he or she would get them involved unless I answered. Because they were texting me, I could see a displayed number, but when I called phone providers, they told me the number couldn't be traced, and it was probably a track phone. Great. I waited about 2 weeks, not responding to the text, thinking I shouldn't feed the troll. But eventually it became too much. I started getting upwards of 50 texts and phone calls a day. I would wake up to 10 to 20 texts every morning. I then decided to change my number altogether. The texting and calls stopped for a while, but sure enough, it started happening again. I called my phone provider asking if they gave out numbers at a user's request, and they said their policy stated that they wouldn't or couldn't unless valid identification was provided. Then one day, I tried logging into my Facebook, but was denied. Within a day, friends started contacting me asking what the hell I was doing, saying they were getting terrible messages from my account. In particular, one of my girlfriends was receiving messages about her mom who died years ago. I apologized profusely and told people what was going on. I contacted Facebook and explained the situation, and they helped me access my account again, at which point I deactivated it for a while. Enough was enough. I decided to contact the FBI, explaining what had been going on for over a month now. They documented everything but told me since I or any of my relatives and friends were in no immediate danger, they probably wouldn't be able to do anything. At that point, I felt stuck. I thought about hiring a private investigator or a hacker. I decided against it, however, and just hoped it would fade out if I never answered. I left my Facebook deactivated and ignored any texts or phone calls. I never had any trouble at home, but some of my closest friends received the occasional text, which weirded us all out. I hated that they got dragged into it. One day I came home, and things felt very eerie. Door unlocked, windows open, and no one home. A strong breeze running through the apartment. I did a check of the place, and found nothing else weird, so I locked everything up, and just waited for my roommates to get home. It's been almost 7 months now. The calls or texts have more or less stopped. I'll get an occasional text, but at most one every 2 weeks. At the peak of it, I was receiving almost 100 texts a day. It definitely affected my personal and social life. I became much more weary of the people around me and my surroundings. I just felt I couldn't really focus on anything unless this stopped. Work was difficult, though I tried to maintain my composure as best as I could. Everything was just weird. Life was weird. I since stopped all forms of dating apps or websites. Things are getting back to normal, and at this point, I just want to put it all behind me. I'm moving at the end of this year, so it'll be nice to have a fresh start in a new place. I'm not going to sit here and say all dating apps are dangerous and that no one should use them, but definitely cover your bases. Ask more questions before meeting someone. FaceTime them first, Skype, anything. I was naive about it, and I regret it. Be safe, stick close to your friends, and try meeting people in more traditional ways. Weird Tinder stalker? Let's not meet.